Hello everyone, welcome back. My camera is in a very weird spot. I think this is the first time we're filming in my new library space. I would normally do this in front of the bookshelves, but Mr. Oliver is laying in the chair and we never get to see him in videos because he's always hiding. Usually in this room, even before it was redone, so we gotta have some Ollie footage because we don't get to see him often enough. My sweet boy. And there's a bookshelf there, so who cares? But yeah, so this is, I think, my first official sit-down video in this room, which is really exciting. It is also going to be, obviously from the title, my March wrap-up. I'm doing this really late in the game, very last minute, and very impromptu, I guess. So I didn't prepare anything beforehand. No notes, no nothing, so we're going off the cuff completely, which is usually how I do things anyway, but I also usually have some kind of idea of what I want to say about each of the books before I go into them. But I guess we'll see what happens. I'll try to do this in the order I read them. Yeah, we'll see. It's gonna be as close as it can get. So the first book that I read in March was book 2 of the Timothy Blake series, and that's Just One Bite by Jack Heath. This is the book I actually found, I keep saying this in every video I talk about this series, in the Dollar Tree. It was $1.25. Realized this was book 2. Got me on the path of devouring this whole series because it's just so interesting and fascinating. Again, this is the one about the cannibal who works with the FBI. I think I gave this one 4 stars. I don't really want to go too much in depth about this because it may spoil a little bit from the first book, but each book has its own, like, there's an overarching plot, but also each book has its own, like, individual, like, crime that Timothy is working on, like, solving. And this one is, he starts working for a crime lord as, like, their body disposal guy. And he, like, meets the person in the woods to pick up the body, and then he just disposes of it as he does. And while he's waiting for the guy to drop off the body, he happens to find another one in the woods. He goes to take a piss or goes to the bathroom or something and finds a body laying in the woods. And of course, because he can't help himself and there's just a body just laying there, he takes it, and oops, the next day he's called in by his old friend at the FBI because there is a missing person. And lo and behold, the picture that she shows him is the body of the guy that he found in the woods, who is now in his freezer. So that's how this one goes. It is a wild ride. I cannot recommend this series enough. It's not like the best literature, but it's a fun time. It's entertaining. I have quite a few laughs. I got my friends to read it. Actually, my one friend was with me and she got a copy for herself when we were at the dollar store. And it's fun. That's all I gotta say about it. It's a fun time. Now we're gonna go into the books that I listened to for when I was on my vacation. So if you watch any of my remodeling my library vlog or any of that, I know that they're a little bit long, and the second half will probably go out after this video. So I'm gonna be talking about them first before you see them. But in the first vlog, I read 3 of these books. So the first one I read or listened to is In Bed with the Devil by Lorraine Heath. This is the first book of the Scoundrels of St. James series, and I have been saying this for a long time now. I have not read Lorraine Heath. This was the first book of hers I've read, and I've been saying that I know I'm just going to love her because I'm hearing about other people talk about the plots and the content in her books. Like, they're dark for historical romance. They're darker. Like, I know some, like, bodice ripper era historical romances also have, like, dark and, like, but, like, more, like, cringy elements. These are less, I guess, less, like, bodice ripper and just more, like, darker stuff. Like, there's pedophilia. I don't remember which one's which, but I think all of them, they're all surrounding, like, a group of friends who kind of grew up on the streets. It's based on Oliver Twist. It was inspired by Oliver Twist, I should say. So it's a group of misfit kids who find themselves coming together under the Fagin, who takes them in, takes care of them, also teaches them how to be like pickpockets and street rats and, you know, that kind of stuff. So now they're all adults and we're hearing the story, their individual stories. So each of them gets a book. The first one is Lucian and Catherine. And Lucian is known for, I'm trying to remember now because I read so many of these back to back. Lucian is known for having murdered somebody in his youth, who hurts a very close friend of his, murders the guy and goes to prison for it or something like that. And then he's going to be hanged, but at the last minute, the father of the person he killed is like, you look a lot like my grandson, and kind of takes him in and is like, well, you're under my guardianship now, so you kind of have to do as I say. So he gets raised with a privileged household, I should say. And his friend, wants to marry his friend Franny. I don't know if you would say he was in love with her, but he has a deep infatuation and respect for her, and he wants to marry her. She's like not so much about it. She's kind of like, wasn't brought up quite the way he was, and is working as a secretary in their friend's gambling hell gentleman's club that he owns. And she's like, I don't fit in your world. Like, it wouldn't work for me. There's all kinds of whispers, and you know how the gossip mill goes. So then we have Catherine, whose best friend is being abused by her husband, and she wants him gone. So she goes to Luke, knowing that he has a reputation for murder, and asks him to murder her friend's husband for her. And he's like, okay. Like, he murdered a guy, not in cold blood, but because he hurts somebody. And he ends up saying, well, if you teach my friend Franny how to live as a woman in high society, then I will kill this guy for you. And they strike up a deal. That's what that is. I gave this one 5 stars. I loved it. You get to learn a lot about the background, the darkness, and it was really good. I really enjoyed it. I feel like I've been talking so much so fast, and I don't know. Then I listened to book 2 in that series, which is Between the Devil and Desire. This one is Dodger and Sophie. Oh God, I don't remember who the hell. Olivia. Not Sophie. Dodger and Olivia. This one was another 5-star. This one was so good. So this is the one where it's a, let me show you the back. Yeah, the back. I didn't show you the back of this one. They don't have step backs, but they do have the step back on the back cover. So, okay. So this one was unique in my eyes because so Olivia is a recent widow and now a single mother. Dodger is another one of the friends from Fagin's group who owns the gentleman's club, or runs it at least. There was a guy some years ago that used to come in. He wouldn't drink or gamble. He would just come in and observe. Which he's like, it's weird, but it's not too weird. Like, people just like to watch. You know, it's a gentleman's club, so there are there are sexual things that happen where that's a fetish that people just like to watch. So he just assumed that's what the guy was all about, but he was really just watching Dodger. Jack, I think is his name, Jack Dodger. And come to find out that when the guy dies, he leaves something for Jack in his will. So Jack goes to the reading of the will along with Olivia, our dead guy's widow. And lo and behold, not only does Olivia not get anything aside, she gets like certain things are left to their son, whose name is Henry. But guardianship of Henry goes to Jack, who is a guy that she had never met before, has no idea who he is, and is like, what the hell is going on? This is like not okay. Like, you have no right, no claim over my son, no claim over my husband's estate. Like, who the hell are you? Like, who do you think you are? So yeah. So Jack is very surprised because he doesn't really know this man. Like, he's seen him, but he doesn't know him like that. But come to find out that, I can't remember the guy's name that died, but he has been watching him because he's seen him and how he is like because Jack grew up in not so great conditions as a boy, he takes other young boys in off the streets, gives them jobs, places to stay, things to do to keep them out of trouble, essentially. And he's really does really well with them. So the guy sees that and is like, okay, well, this is, my son needs a mentor like this. So yeah, so they're kind of, he gets the estate. He moves into the house in her husband's bedroom, and she is like mortified, but also because her husband was like 30 years older than her, he really had no interest in her sexually. He literally just did his duty to produce an heir, and then that was that. He never touched her again, and she is sex starved. So there's a lot of sexual tension between the two. This book was so good. I loved it. Loved it. Loved it. This was 5 stars. I think I actually liked it better than the first one. It was amazing. Then I took a little bit of a break from those. I can't remember. I might have read this one in the between 1 and 2, but I might have read it after book 2. But then I listened to Hooked by Emily McIntyre, and I gave this 3 stars. I was disappointed. This is a Peter Pan retelling where Hook is the hero. Wendy is our heroine. Peter is Wendy's father, and he's like the villain. You have Tina Bell, who is Peter's secretary, which would be Tinkerbell. You have the Jolly Roger, I think is the name of a bar or something like that. There was just a lot of, like, I thought it was a little bit too much of the, I mean, I read retellings or reimaginations of Disney stuff, like A Court of Thorns and Roses is a retelling of, what is it, Beauty and the Beast, I think. And like, but there's no, like, you get it, but this is literally like picking things out of that specific story, the tale, and dropping them into a new, I don't know. It just felt a little bit too much, too forced, if you will. And I think it went on for, it's not even that long of a book. It's 320 some pages, and it just felt like when it was about to wrap up and end, there was still more to it. And I'm just like, aren't we done yet? Like, is this not the end? I don't know. I wasn't that impressed by it. I can't remember. There was something else about this that I was like not. And I literally read these books back to back to back. So now I'm like, can't remember what my thoughts went with which book. I don't remember if it was Hook or if it was one of the other heroes where I was like, you're kind of an idiot. It might have been this one, to be honest. I was let down, I should say. I had higher hopes for it. Everyone does say that book 2, Scarred, is a lot better. So maybe I'll give that one a try. They do have that on my audio on Hoopla as well. So maybe I'll do that. Instead of, probably not going to buy a physical copy of any more of this series, but I'm glad I finally read it and got it like off of my TBR because it's been on there for a really long time. All right, then we got back into Lorraine Heath and the 3rd book of the Scoundrels of St. James series, which is Surrender to the Devil. Here's the step back on the back. So this is Franny and Sterling's story. Now, Franny is from book 1. Luke's the person that Luke wanted to marry. She's the one girl in the group. She's the Dodger secretary at the Gentleman's Club. And Sterling, our hero, is the brother of Catherine from the 1st book. And he's like a little bit of stuck-up little whatever. But he sees Franny, is infatuated with her. Literally he doesn't want marriage. He doesn't want any kind of long-term commitment. All he wants is a night with her. And spoiler alert, she was the one that was assaulted in the 1st book. That the man that Luke killed was the person who raped her. So this one is actually, I gave this one 4 stars. It was a little bit less of it didn't quite hit for me like the first 2 books, but her backstory is probably one of the darkest. I know that Dodgers, by the way, did have pedophilia in it. He was like sexually molested as a child by a guy. Franny, when she was like 12 years old, was kidnapped and sold to the white slave trade and was raped and her virginity taken by the villain in her book. And so her past is very dark, and because of that happening, all of the guys are very, very, very protective of her. And so when this Sterling comes into play and has interest in her, they are up in his face if you hurt her, threatening him. And she doesn't really know what to do about it. Like, she's had guys interested in her before. They think she's pretty, they think she's attractive, she's a redhead. But she's never dealt with like this kind of interest. Like, they don't want her, he just wants a night with her, and she's kind of just like, I don't know what to do with that. So it was. And then we have in this one, not Fagin, Sykes shows up in this one from, see, every time I think of this series, Oliver Twist, I think of Oliver and Company with the dogs and the cat. And I remember Sykes. But Sykes does show up in this one as like the new antagonistic villain character. The one thing I did like about the end of this book, there is a real historical figure that shows up at the end of this book. And I just went, when I was listening to it, I was like, oh my God, that is such a clever, brilliant tie-in to the, I don't want to tell you because it's literally right at the end, and I was just like, oh my God, that's so cute and so like brilliant the way she tied that into the story. But so I ended up getting this one 4 stars. I didn't continue further with, I was gonna read, just binge through the whole thing, but I don't have the other 2 books physically, and I'm trying to, if I'm listening to an audiobook, I want it to be something that's already on my shelf. So I'm working through my actual physical TBR, which that video has not come out yet. I have filmed it, but I have to edit it still. So just hold tight for that one of all the books on my physical TBR, because then you'll see why I need to freaking start going through it. And then finally, the last book that I finished in March, I started it, I don't know when, but I finished it in March, and that's Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I actually might have started this in March. Whenever the show came out is probably when I started reading this, because I was reading it along with the show. I read a bunch of it ahead of time before the show started, so I did probably start it in like February. And then I watched a few episodes until I was like comfortable and not too far ahead, or I was comfortable, I was afraid I wasn't going to get ahead. And then I read more of the book. Literally I had like 50 pages left and hit a lull and didn't want to keep reading, and I just kind of like was bored of it and wanted to read something else. So I finally managed to finish the last 30 pages on my vacation, and I'm going to give it, I think I'll give it 4 stars. It would have been a 3, I think, at first, because I was kind of like getting disinterested in it. But when I finally picked it up, I got through it better, and I enjoyed the ending a lot. So it's gonna be 4 star and not a 5 star for me. I do like the format. The format is, I'm pretty sure most people have read this book or at least watched the show by now, but the format is like in a interview style. You have a person interviewing the bandmates like 30 years later. 30, 40 years later, after the band all broke up, telling the story of what happened. So you have all the members of the Six. You have Daisy Jones. You have the producers, their tour manager, Camilla, which is Billy's wife from the Six. You have a bunch of people that were just like part of their rise and their fall, and just telling the story of this band. It was just a garage band of brothers who wanted to start an actual like touring band, and then they get a gig in they move to Los Angeles. They finally get a music producer to help them get going, and he finds Daisy Jones, who is another solo artist who's looking to make it into in the industry, but like all the producers she's worked with have been like skeevy, and it was the 70s, so yeah, like the late 60s. So yeah, they were all freaking skeevy. And then we have our producer for the Six being like, I want to work with you. I have a perfect, I want you to work with her. Like, it's a whole thing. They come together. Her and Billy, Billy's like the head of the Six, I guess, like the leader, quote unquote. He fashions himself as the leader. They butt heads a lot. It's a very good story. It's very well done, very well written. The format is unique. And it's a fascinating story, but I still think it's a 4-star for me. It was the book of the month, 2019 book of the year. But yeah, still a 4-star. I am glad I read it. It was very enjoyable. The show was also very well done in my opinion. I mean, obviously they had to take liberties because they did it very, very close to the book. I will say that much. The end they changed. The ending of the book's end. I mean, it ends similarly. Obviously, the band breaks up, but the catalyst for it is a little bit different in the book than it is in the movie or in the TV show. Things get changed around a little bit. It's nothing crazy, but it's like if you read the book, you're like, well, why did you do it that way? But it was still really good. I didn't cry at the end of the book. I cried at the end of the TV show. So there's that. But yeah. So that's it. Those are the 6 books I read in March, and 5 of them I read at the very end of the month, like within the last week, which seems to be a trend lately, which I'm not a fan of because April seems to be going the same way. It is currently April 13th, and I've read 50 pages of a book, and I have 8 books on my TBR. Yeah. Probably, I'm going to say 7 because that one I'm probably not going to read, but it's not good, guys. It's not good. But I do know at least one of them has an audiobook that I have access to. I don't use Audible. I don't want to pay for Audible subscription. But I do use Hoopla. So there is one audiobook on my Hoopla. I just there's a lot going on in April for me right now that anytime I sit down to do something and just read that's not doing anything, I feel like I'm wasting time, which I need to get out of that mindset because it's not wasting time. It's really not. But there's just a lot of things I need to get done before the end of the month. So it's a time management issue is what I'm having right now. Anyway, this isn't a vlog, so no one cares. But I did good. I'm hoping April ends the same way March did, because 6 books is good for me. That's a decent number. Like, I'd be happy with that every month. But yeah, those are the 6 books I read in March. And there's Mr. Oliver passed out still. He's such a good boy. He's so sweet. He's a big boy. Hi. He's like, leave me alone, Ma. I just want to sleep. As he purrs. He's funny. Alright. So yeah, that's gonna be it for this video, I guess. I will talk to you guys next month with my wrap up, and we'll see if I read more than half a book. Fingers crossed. But that's it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.